Now, the first one that's coming up here, I don't think she really needs an introduction, but she is known for writing various different articles for women's ministry. She's actually the one that oversees our women's ministry here at Council Road. She has spoken at conferences, at events. She runs our women's ministry website, the blogs. She is a fantastic person. But did you know that in high school, she was nominated for the Biggest Klutz Award? That's right. Our very own Vickey Banks is our first speaker. Please give a round of applause for her and pray for her as she walks up these steps.
I really felt like I needed to trip. Let's talk about same-gender groups and how they really benefit us all. So first of all, what do I mean by a same-gender group? I'm talking about intentional, God-focused groups of men only and women only. And at Council Road, we know we have a great mixed group culture. We love our connection groups and we love our home groups. And when those groups are really healthy, they help us to take the truths of God's word and to apply them to the specific circumstances of our life. But let me ask you a question. Are there some topics, are there some circumstances you're never going to feel comfortable talking about in those groups? I see your faces, and I know you're starting to think of some things. How about sexual temptation, sin, and dysfunction? Overwhelming grief, shame, feelings of inferiority, personal marriage issues, hormones, hysterectomies, breastfeeding, breast cancer, testicular cancer, miscarriage, anything that has to do with the gender-oriented body part. Financial issues. How about addictions? There's a host of things we're just not ever going to be comfortable talking about in mixed groups, and some that we really shouldn't. So what's the solution to that? My favorite solution is for us to also be passionately involved in same-gender groups. And if there's one thing I've got experience with, it's that. I led my first women's Bible study in college, and my husband led his first men's Bible study in college. And for the past 40-plus years, we have invested our heart, soul, time, and energy in these groups because we have benefited so personally, and we have seen the benefits of other people. So I asked Brian, what are some ways that you have really seen men benefit from being in just men's-only small groups? And he said, well, first of all, most men are isolated. So they're really not talking to anybody about personal and spiritual matters. And men's groups start to help some of the real damage done by that. He also said that it's easier for men to understand on a more personal level some of the specific temptations and sin struggles that they deal with. And that when a group of men get together dealing with those same issues, that it just opens up conversation and accountability in beautiful ways. And then he said, as a general rule, women are more spiritual than men, and men are really intimidated by that. So they are far less likely to speak out or to ask questions about spiritual things in mixed company. And now that doesn't benefit us as women at all. In a complementarian culture like this church has traditionally been, most of us women, we are very conscious of making sure we don't talk more than you do, that we don't share too much. And obviously, we're especially sensitive about you thinking that we're just emotional, which means we're probably not going to talk about the things that are deepest concerns in our lives. So that's why same-gender groups are so helpful, he says, for men. Now, for women, just the other day, I was walking to a connection class, and a woman stopped me here at church, and she said, you know, I just had one of those big, round birthdays, and a couple of my girlfriends celebrated threw me a party. And she said, I was looking around the room and was just overwhelmed with all the great friendships I had with the women in that room. But then I realized that each and every one of those friendships I had made because of a women's group here at Council Road, either Bible study group, a table group, or a book club. And I hear that over and over again, and that's a beautiful thing. I've talked to several other women about how they had most benefited. One of the things that came up often was the intentionality when you get in a really small group of just your own gender. That oftentimes those groups involve you to study or to read before you come, so the discussion is much richer and more meaningful, and it had really helped them to benefit in their spiritual growth. They talked about how they love the multi-generational aspect of our small groups. We work really hard to mix up our ages And over, I hear women talk about that. And then an interesting thing is they said they were much more welcoming of accountability from women than they were from men. So they loved getting that in our small groups. And then interestingly, they said the spiritual growth they had experienced in those groups and the increased connection and friendships made it easier for them to actively engage in spiritual discussion in their mixed groups environments. They were much more comfortable doing so. So lots of benefits there that we see. So those are really some really great reasons for men and women's groups. So in conclusion, let me just say this. Healthy groups need healthy group members. And I genuinely believe that solid gender-only groups are what help us get there. They help us personally, they help us feel heard, cared for, prayed over, and held accountable. And the spiritual growth and the connection we experience in those groups, they equip us to better lead out, participate in, serve, and welcome others into our mixed group context. So, same gender groups, they really do help us all.